Lewis, and I'm the CEO of Positive Results Center, and I'm so happy you have joined us today. We're going to have a dynamic conversation like all the rest of them, and tonight we're going to be talking about safety. So before we do that, of course, we've got to do all the little things that we need to do. The first thing we want to do is thank you for joining us. And then we'd also like to thank our sponsors who made all of this possible. So we want to thank SoCal Gas as our lead sponsor, Southern California, for Kaiser Permanente, the Los Angeles Business Journal, Liberty Hill, LA Care, Forgiving for Living, Mac Enterprises, and also Hilda Solis. I think that's it. And then, of course, we definitely want to acknowledge our sister partners, the Black Women Leaders of Los Angeles. They're dynamic, and I love working with them. Our motto is trust Black women, because trust and believe. We're going to make it happen, and we're going to make it do what it do. So tonight we are talking about safety, and we have a dynamic panel for you. I want to acknowledge my ASL interpreter on the stage. This is Miss Bree Jones, and a little later on we're going to have Artie, and they're both from Pro Bono ASL, and we're excited to always make sure that we are acknowledging everyone in the room. So I see some people have already started putting their comments in the chat. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're in the room, we want to know who you are. We want you to go ahead and acknowledge who you are, put up your company information, put up your information, go ahead and put your website in, add your logo if you like, tell us who you are, what you do, and how you can support us. And also, if you want to find out who's in the room, you're going to click people. So that way you know exactly who's attending. You'll know who our staff is. You'll know who our speakers are. And you'll also know who other people are that are participating in this conversation. If you have a question in particular, we would like you to put it in the Q&A. Don't add it in the chat. Make sure you put your question in Q&A, and then that way we can really identify what question needs to be answered and who you would like that question to go to. And again, I've already talked about the chat. So go ahead and chat it up. We want to know what you like, what needs to be improved, what areas you're interested in. Are we covering the conversation the way you want to hear it? And if we need to add something else, let us know, because this is not just a one-way conversation. So someone asked me last week, so what is the purpose of advancing social justice and equity? Why are you having these conversations? This is really about us working with the community, building a partnership and a bridge, and then most importantly, this is about really building a blueprint for violence prevention. It takes all of us working together to make it happen. So I see people are putting their information in, and that really helps us, because not only do we want to know who's here just by your name, we want to know what organization you're with and what do you do, because maybe one day soon you'll be on this side of the screen and we can share your information. So right above us, you can see it says check out PRC or donate now. And the importance of that is, if you really want to find out, as we're talking, like, wait a minute, let me see what's going on with PRC. What's their website look like? What else do they do? You can click that, still be right here part of this conversation, and still find out what we do and get into our website. And of course, if you'd like to make a donation, we're always happy to have you do so. The donation goes to running programs such as this, and also supporting some partner agencies and families. Positive Results mission addresses trauma from a cultural and age perspective. We specialize in creating awareness about dating, domestic and interpersonal violence, sexual assault and bullying. We also work on building healthy relationships, building leaders and thinkers so that we can change the community and address the woes, the concerns. People always talk about things. Well, we're about creating change, and we need you to be a part of that. So we ask you, if you find this conversation engaging, and even if you feel like, okay, it's engaging, but there's some things that could change, we need you to make a donation so that we could do that. All right, so that's it. I covered all the housekeeping. Let me get down to this conversation. Tonight is about safety. The world is going crazy. Gun violence is out of control. Domestic violence is out of control. Black women and girls are missing all over the world. Indigenous women are missing all over the world. And so tonight we have a dynamic group of people that are going to have conversation. There's going to be 2 panels. Our first panel is addressing domestic violence and sexual or sex trafficking. So we see it everywhere. We are sitting in our homes and we may be victims of domestic violence. We may hear the neighbors screaming and hollering. We may see people that are just out on the streets and they have a black eye, they've been beat up, or maybe they're homeless or they're hungry. Because see, domestic violence shows up many, many ways. But we do know that there is the intersection of domestic violence and sex trafficking, as well as community violence. So our experts tonight are going to talk about that. And just so you know, they say that 1 in 4 women in her lifetime will experience some form of violence or abuse. And 1 in 6 men will experience some form of violence and abuse. But I'm gonna tell you those numbers are BS. And the reason I say it's BS is because those are only reported numbers. When people experience violence and abuse, very often they may not even report it for fear, for shame, for blame. And so when you hear statistics, remember these are only the numbers that have been reported. Those numbers are much higher. And when we look at women and girls and even boys who have been trafficked, there's really no count to the number because there's so many ways trafficking shows up. And we're going to talk about that tonight. And our second part of the conversation is going to be on community partnerships. And so I'm excited. I'm just going to go ahead and jump on into this conversation. And we're going to bring up not 1, not 2, but 3 dynamic people. And they have blessed me to be part of our partnership, our community, and our family. First, we're going to bring up Miss Bernita Walker. And Miss Bernita Walker is the CEO of Project Peacemakers. For those of you who don't know, this woman right here has trained almost every person who is a domestic violence advocate, and she works with pastors and the lay agencies to train them. And she's going to tell you a little bit more about who she is as soon as I bring up everyone else. We're going to also bring up Miss Tera Hilliard, who is the CEO of FCI, and they address trafficking. And then we have Mr. Ben Taco Owens. And let me tell you, I've been waiting for a long time to have Mr. Ben Taco Owens join us. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you and welcome. And let's start with you, Bernita, go on over to Tera, and then over to Ben. And let us learn a little bit about who you are and what you do. So take about a minute to do that.
Okay, thank you so much, Candy, for this opportunity to be here with you this evening. And to all of you, she gives me too much credit. I do train persons who want to be domestic violence advocates, but not like she's saying that amount. But thank you so much for considering. I am a native of Los Angeles, born and raised, and I'm also a survivor of domestic violence. And that's why I do what I do, because I've been called to this by God. I'm a woman of faith, and I truly stand on his word and what it is that he's having me to do in regards to domestic violence. Most people don't have a good understanding, and I'm still learning, and I've only been doing this for 40 years. So that tells you a little bit about domestic violence. It is consistently changing on a regular basis. You know, they say the only thing that is consistent is change. And each year we find new things to look at, new ways to look at it, and the connection that it has with all of the other issues that are going around. I'm just grateful to be here to be able to share with you. I'll be talking to you straight. I don't know how many of you can accept that, but this is time for candy coating things that's over. We're in a war. That means that all of us have to put on our armor and do what needs to be done to save our lives and the lives of those around us. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernita. Tera?
Good evening, everyone. I am so excited to be here. And what Candy said about Bernita is true. I was trained by Bernita back in 1994. So she has trained everyone, but it is an honor to be here. I run FCI-LA.org. We are a human trafficking organization, and our goal is to rescue, restore, educate, and bring hope to victims of human trafficking. I'm also a native of Los Angeles, and little did I know that everywhere around me, human trafficking was happening when I was a little girl, but we just called it prostitution. So I'm looking forward to sharing a little bit more about the myths that surround human trafficking, how it's not what we think it is, but it is everything we should know it is. So I'm looking forward to sharing also. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Tera. And Ben Taco Owens.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. I apologize. I didn't get a chance to hear Tera for some reason. Not on me. My name is Ben Owens. I was Taco, just a childhood nickname I kind of got stuck with, so everybody calls me. A product of domestic violence, probably in the worst kind of way. I was born in the 60s. I was born in an era where it was illegal to have interracial marriage. So my mother's Indian, father black, and although they both loved, they weren't allowed to be married. So I was born in an era where racism got a hold before I even, was born. But that, led me through a series of events, just growing up and living in a household where violence was kind of made a segue for me to become involved with gangs. And that kind of, rolled into me becoming an activist for domestic violence. So today, here I am to be able to help whoever I'm working at Gardena in South LA.
Well, Ben, thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad to have each one of you here. And we're going to really talk, as Bernita said, we're going to do real talk. Please don't sugarcoat it. Don't make it look pretty, because it's pretty damn ugly out there. And our babies, our children, our families, our cousins, our neighbors, people are suffering. And not just girls, but boys and men and women have been impacted. And I say this all the time. I'm going to say it here. I'm going to say it right now, that we know for a fact that violence and abuse begins in the womb. We know this. We tell women all the time to touch their stomach and sing to their baby, but the same singing and songs that they hear that screaming and hollering and cussing. And so our babies are predisposed to violence, and we groom them for violence in so many ways. So let me go ahead and start off with you, Bernita. Can you answer the following question? In the field of domestic violence, intimate partner violence, and sexual assault, how do you define being safe?
Well, the first thing is that you have to really consider who you're talking to, who you let into your life. That's the reality of it. We have a tendency to get involved in relationships by 5 things: what looks good, what smells good, what sounds good, what feels good, and what tastes good. And because of that, we let individuals that have learned to charm their way in, may it be male or female, into our lives, instead of asking the questions. Who are you? Where did you come from? What kind of background do you have? What about your parents? Did they get along? Did they rate? There's just so many questions that need to be asked. But we have a tendency that when we see something that looks good, and if they smell good, and they come to us talking good, like Oh, honey, I wish I had somebody like you in my life. I would really love you. I would get you a 2-story house, a 3-car garage, all kind of furs and jewels. And that sinks in. But we don't ask what we have to give up to get it. And it's the same for men. Okay? Because what happens is that that woman that's out there, that female, because I have to let me identify folks first. You know, we have a set of girls, or females, and we have women, and we have boys, or males, and we have men. You're just not automatically put into those the top categories of being a man and a woman because you reached of age. There's a lot of things that you have to go through to mature to be in that category. So just go back to that. We start looking too young. We start not loving ourselves too young. We must love ourselves, male and female, so that we can get ourselves together to be able to at least take care of ourselves. When you're talking about safety, you're talking about making sure that you're covered. Learn how to take care of yourself first, and then you can move on from that. Don't depend on anybody to do anything for you. The only person you should be dependent on is God. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, that's good. And it's true. You know, you said something real, that we let people in our life, in our home, and have access to not only our finances and our home and us, but our children. You know, and I just saw this terrible article just yesterday about this woman's boyfriend who was convicted of murdering her 2-year-old son, and it was in an abusive relationship. And so we've got to be real serious. You know, this game of this fun and games, and they make me feel so good, and they touch me in a certain kind of way, and they make me, but yet and still we look up in a little while and our kids are dead, or our kids are missing. And so, Tera, talk to us about what exactly is human trafficking.
You know, what's interesting is that, growing up in South LA, when we were coming up, I'm a child of the 70s and 80s, and little girls were always told that they were fast for sitting on that man's lap, or keep your legs closed. Or we see a little girl walking down the street that was a prostitute. Look at that prostitute. She ought to know better. But what we did not think about was, how can a child become a prostitute? How does a child consent to that? You know, when a little girl is molested by her uncle, when there's no money exchange, then it's called abuse. When that same little girl is raped by a 30-year-old man and she's 12, then it's called prostitution because money was exchanged. So the definition of human trafficking is that there must be force, fraud, and coercion. When the child is under the age of 18, there does not need to be proof of force, fraud, or coercion, because children cannot consent to sex. And so far too often in our community, we have blamed the victim, but we have never confronted the perpetrators, the buyers of sex. And then the other thing is that a lot of these girls, and we know that a lot of people here are from South LA or the LA area. We know Figueroa has always been known as the hostro. But, have you ever thought about, does she really want to be out there? Does she have a choice? So if she's over the age of 18, she's out there through force, fraud, and coercion. There are pimps that are out there that are calling the shots. There are buyers that are pulling over to buy sex from her. And so, as I've grown and learned more about this industry, many of the girls, I would say 100% of the girls that we rescue say they never wanted to be out there. The precursor to human trafficking is child abuse, incest, molestation. More than 90% of the girls that are on the streets are coming out of the foster care system. So when you don't have anybody checking for you, then you are going to be lured and pulled into an industry that you never even consented to. And so people always say, well, she has a choice. When your choice is no all the time, do you really have a choice? And so one last thing I'm going to say, that we have to do better in our community and call a spade a spade. Far too often, women are held accountable for their victimology, and men are just called good old boys. Oh, he's just a man, or he's, but when that man is pulling over to buy that girl, whether she is 11 or 35, he is wrong. And then when you have a pimp calling shots, do you know that all these girls that's on the streets have a daily quota of $500 to $1,000 7 days a week? And if she does not meet that quota, she suffers abuse and trauma and torture at the hands of her trafficker. So, you know, when we talk about, you know, Black Lives Matter, we're not talking about that Black Lives Matter on Figueroa among our girls. We're not talking about that those little girls that are on the street are coming out of the foster care system, 11 and 12-year-old girls. We're not talking about the men that are buying them, go to our local churches and are just regular old Joes. So, you know, the issue of human trafficking is very much alive and real in our communities. And it is not just, you know, I hear people say, but I saw Taken and I thought, you know, human trafficking was about Taken. Human trafficking is alive and we're here in these United States, and it's time for us to do something about it.
Thank you. You know, that's the real honest to God truth. So you said a couple of things that I want to acknowledge. First off, your average Black girl is adultized at 4 to 5 years old. They're saying that this 4 or 5-year-old girl is an adult woman. You hear people say stupid mess about a little girl who's 4 or 5 years old, or even 3 years old, who has been sexually assaulted by a grown person. And they'll say, well, you know, she looked at me like she wanted me. She's the one who really wanted this. What kind of nonsense, crazy mess is that? We've got to call a spade a spade. So we have these little girls and little boys who are out on the stroll. I don't know a single girl, and I have talked to hundreds, if not thousands of them. And I can't tell you a 12-year-old girl who has ever said, this morning I'm going to get up and I'm going to put my hooker boots on and my hooker pumps, my hooker shorts and top, and I'm going to go out here and turn a trick. That's not the way it happens. No. As you said, 90% of these kids coming from foster care, and a lot of them are coming from these homes where, I'm not even going to say a home. It's a house where some pedophiles and abusers live, and they are abusing our babies, and they're selling our babies. Some children have been sexually assaulted from birth, okay? From birth, from 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 years old. And so by the time they get 11 and 12 years old, they tired of mama, daddy, auntie, uncle, cousin, brother, sister, neighbor, and everybody else sexually abusing them. So they say, look, I'm gonna take control. Today, I'm not doing this again. Somebody's gonna have to pay for this because it's just not right. And this is how they think, because that is how they've been groomed to think. People, girls, boys, they're not out here saying, oh, okay, I just want to have sex with some adult. That's bullcrap. Yep. And I do keep mentioning boys because we don't talk enough about boys who have been sexually assaulted and put out on the streets as well. You may not see them in the same kind of way, but they're out there. And trust and believe, when you see a grown man who is angry, go back and find that little boy who was angry and who's been abused. And the same thing for a woman. Let us stop blaming the victim. Oof. We are, oh my goodness, y'all are gonna have me out here in a minute. Okay, so I'm gonna bring Ben. Ben, I know I asked you, what you want to be called? Ben? Taco? Doesn't matter?
Either one. I'm fine with either one.
Okay, so tell us, what are some of the perceptions of the acceptance of community violence? And I'm so glad we're talking about the acceptance of community violence. Talk to us about
that. I think sometimes when we see things that happen in the community, it becomes normal as it relates to violence, if it's not none of our business. Or in some cases, you know, you shouldn't tell, you shouldn't snitch. And that goes everything from somebody another person or even their domestic partner. And we've gotten to the place to where it's acceptable, where we kind of like accept the fact that if folks are, let's say, so for gang violence, it's considered a consensual matter, meaning that, you know, if I hurt you, you hurt, okay, we don't need to call the police on each other. I think it's going where it's an inclusion of it. Things also on to the point to where everybody want to keep it gangster. Now, if we're gonna fight it, we're gonna deal with it, you know, we're gonna deal with it on our terms. So, as a father of 3 daughters, to me that I know, you know, my daughters are in a situation like, you know, that they call me. But now before they call me, it might be safer to call the police or dial 911. It's less numbers to call, and you know, they probably get there quicker. But I know that if I'm coming as a father, it's probably going to, you know, lead to violence one way or another. But I guess the perception of violence in our communities, it's a means to an end. It's how you stop a situation from happening again. And growing up in a domestic violence home, that was kind of like, you know, whether whoopings or, you know, get dealt with through physical violence. It was a way of forcing something to make you stop doing something or make you start doing. So unfortunately, I believe it's in our communities that we really need to, you know, accept it, tool on how we do things. I'm probably like, you know, meeting that you know, when I was a young boy, if somebody hit you, hit them back. And that stuck with me, you know, when I became a teenager and, you know, when I became a grown man. So that philosophy was not a matter of defending myself, but to get revenge. I interpret that as, you know, get revenge. If somebody does something to you, get revenge. It ain't a matter of you getting the stone back. Now, I think, again, in our culture, in some communities, that's the perception of violence. It's a means of justice, and it's a means of revenge. It's a short walk across the street.
Yeah, you know, and that's real. I think almost everyone's family, at some point, somebody said, if somebody hit you, you better hit them back. Pick up a 2x4 and knock the crap out of them. But our community has changed from when I was a little girl, and that was what we said, because it was about having a fist fight, you know, but it's no longer about having a fist fight. It's about the possibility that you could get shot and killed. As a woman, if I were in anywhere and if a man approached me and said, you know, hey, if I'm in a restaurant and he says, can I buy you a drink? And I say, no, I'm good, thank you very much. The likelihood of me getting shot is very high. The likelihood of a kid going to a party and having a fist fight is so small, but the likelihood of them never coming home is a whole nother thing. And so, you know, those are some of the different ways we look. And even the likelihood of a girl getting in a relationship or a boy getting in a relationship with someone and getting beat up and us saying, oh, you know what? That's just how they are. You know, you got to suck it up, or you gotta be nicer to them, or you got to sex them up more, or you got to be quiet. That happens all the time, and we've got to get past that. We really must learn how to get past that. So Bernita, let's talk about red flags, because, you know, violence, there's so many red flags all around. So what are these red flags, and can you share some of them? What do they look like?
I want to go back for just 1 second, because something that was said is very important. When we talk about parenting, we must learn how to teach our children what love is all about.
Yeah.
And when I mentioned about the men and the boys, that's a big part. Taco said that he has 2 daughters, and that if everybody hurt those 2 daughters, he would go after them. They better call the police instead of him. There's a responsibility that he and other fathers have to tell their daughters what to expect from the males that are out there that are going to approach them. My first incident, I was 14 years old and the young man was 15, and he put knives to my throat and guns to my head. I didn't know that that could happen to me at that age. So fathers have a huge responsibility. And because they can see the red flags, they know the red flags. It's very important that they instruct that to their daughters. Okay, let me give you a couple of them, a few of them. I've got 15 here. I don't know if I get a chance to do them all.
And I do want you to mention as many as you can, because there's a lot of girls that don't have a dad, don't have a man, and may not even have a mom in their life. So let's talk about them.
Okay, hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about that too, because that's the responsibility of the men that we talked about earlier, to take on those boys who don't have a father in their lives. Very important to share this. If we want to stop this madness, we have to work together. Okay, a push for quick involvement coming on very strong, saying things like, and I mentioned it earlier, I never felt love like this for anyone. An abuser pressures the possible mates for an exclusive commitment almost immediately. Another one, jealousy, excessive possessiveness, calling constantly or visiting unexpectedly. The abuser might prevent a mate from going to work because they might meet someone, checks the mileage on the car, looks for other clues to other relationships. Controlling, interrogating intensely, where you been, who you been with, how long who else was there, where were you, all those types of things. Especially if a mate is late, say from work or from going to a girlfriend's house or a boyfriend's house, about whom or he or she is talking to on the phone, about the money, where the money is kept, or they keep all the money, insist that he or she asks for permission to go anywhere or do anything. That is not love, y'all. That is not love. That is control. Unrealistic expectations, expecting the mate to be the perfect partner and meet every need. They can't do it. They don't have it. They haven't been taught that. Isolation, trying to cut mate off from family and friends, accuses people who are supporters of the quote unquote causing trouble. You know, like your girlfriend is just saying that because they just jealous because they're not with me, or something of that effect. Yeah. The abuser may deprive the mate of a phone call, blames others for problems and mistakes, their boss, their partners. It's always the fault of someone else if anything goes wrong. Makes everyone else responsible for their feelings. For example, they will say, you make me angry instead of I am angry. Hypersensitivity. Yeah. Easily insulted, frequently ranting about the injustice of things that are a part of life. Cruelty to animals and children. This is a big one. Cruelty to animals. They will assault their partner's dog or cat or a bird or whatever the case may be, trying to get to the victim. The abuser may kill or punish animals. I know I'm going too fast. Am I going too fast for them translating? Okay, I'm not. Okay. The abuser may kill or punish animals brutally. They may expect children to do things that are far beyond their ability. For example, hitting a small child for wetting in a diaper, or teasing children until they cry. Playful use of force. That's like the 15-year-old that put the gun to my head and the knife to my throat. Right. When asked about it, he said, I was just playing with you. I got to stop. Okay.
You know what? Okay, one more.
Verbal abuse, consistently criticizing or saying blatantly cruel and hurtful things. And I have 4 other things on this list, but you all get the gist. You get the gist. You understand. Okay? And that's the most important thing. Thank you.
And Bernita, we need you to share that list, because, you know, one of the things that I've noticed with people that we work with, they say, oh, I'm not a victim of domestic violence. I'm not a victim of dating violence because they didn't hit me. And that person does not have to hit you to victimize you. And let's just take a moment here and talk about it. So we're talking about verbal abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, there's sexual abuse, there's spiritual abuse, financial abuse. I think that might be
educational abuse.
Educational abuse, medical abuse. There's all kinds of ways that people can abuse people. And that list that you listed is an exhaustive list, but it's not a complete list. And guess what? Sometimes people are being abused on several different ways on that list. especially not only that part about the animal, but I've heard so many people say, well, I've got to stay with them because you know what, they told me that nobody has ever loved them the way that I love them, and even their mama doesn't love them. And I tell you, wait a minute, if your mama didn't love you, that's a problem. And really what they're saying, they're not saying that nobody has loved them. What they're really saying is, I'm not lovable because I don't want to receive that love. I'm going to fight everything against it, and I'm going to fight you too. And so love really should not hurt.
Let me add one thing quickly. There's also the coercive control.
Coercive control. Yes, yes. People, you even mentioned the one thing about the person who makes you feel like it's your fault. You know what? I didn't get that job because it was your fault. I'm going to kill myself because you made me. No one can make anyone do anything. We have to make sure that the person who is responsible for the abuse is held accountable. Under no circumstances is any man or woman, boy or girl, responsible for someone abusing someone else. And they're also not responsible for being trafficked. And Bernita, you said something earlier about we have to learn how to treat people with love and show love, but we have to learn how to love ourselves. And that is really important, especially when you've never had anyone love you. You know, I hear, and I say this every week, every time we have these conversations, I'm talking about how you will see a mother, a father, an aunt, an uncle, a grandparent cuss a little baby out. And so these things are called learned behaviors. If I hear enough times that I'm stupid, that I'm not SHIT, that I'll never be loved, that I'm ugly, that I'm dumb, well, guess what? That becomes my reality. And so when I hear someone say, girl, you fine, I love you, you're going to be mine forever. I've been looking for this love all my life. So I've kind of veered to that, but it's not a true reality. So thank you so much, Bernita, for that list. And we're going to get that list and we're going to share it because people need to know all of the different signs. And I saw someone put up in here that we need to have these conversations and we need to have classes. And that's what Positive Results Center does. That's what Project Peacemakers does. That's what FCI does as well as that's what Detours does with Mr. Owens. All of us conduct these workshops. And so parents, call us, you know, other agencies, your partner agencies, the community-based agencies, the schools, contact us because we have this knowledge and we want to share it. And guess what? Y'all need to hear it. Don't play like it's not happening, because it's happening and it's happening right in your faces and you're not even seeing it because you don't even know. So, Ben, how does Black interracial relationships intertwine into the mainstream culture? Can you hear me, Ben? Okay.
That is difficult. That is kind of when you have two cultures. That is kind of integration get in. Yeah, which one works best for me? I think when you see interracial relationships, depends on who it is. It could be some animosity directed towards that person who didn't get the opportunity to pick their parents in the first place, but at the same time didn't have a choice on, you know, how light or dark their skin would come out. But I don't necessarily see a lot of a balancing act with interracial relationships. Sometimes it's generated towards one side of the culture or race as but in the balancing act and are in
Ben, you're breaking down.
Relationship, but I think most that okay. I think more so the child finding their place, you know, in society. Where do they fit? Who they are? How do they define? Is that should be considered. I get it. Two people love each other and they want to be together. They want to have children and spend the rest of their lives together. But if it's considered, what type of environment are they going to raise them in? You know, and how is that going to impact them? You know, they're going to have an identity crisis. You know, in dealing with who they are. Do they, you know, are they this color? Are they that color? Is that their people? What do they get put on their driver's license? So many of those things that come into play. And again, I'm kind of interested in knowing what interracial relationships, what are the possibilities of them staying together or not being together, domestic violence, and maybe Dr. Walker can insight to that if she has anything on interracial relationships, and are they just, you know, does the situations are they parallel with, you know,
So we can ask Dr. Walker, Ms. Bernita Walker, in just a minute to address that. But I want to really bring up a good conversation that we don't really talk about. People finding their place and how people accept them. And I really have to say this, especially being the mother that I am to my children. We teach hate. We teach hate in so many ways. The parents have to learn how to not only love themselves, but to teach their children how to love themselves and teach their children to learn how to love other people. We dislike people based on the color of their skin, the size of their body, you know, what size of the track they grew up on. You know, but wait, you grew up on the east side? I grew up on the west side. What? I'm never going on the other side of Crenshaw. Or, you know, that little girl is fat, and that little boy is fat, or he's too skinny, or their neck's too long. What in the world? Why can't we just learn how to accept people? And I think once we learn how to accept people, it does not matter the color of your skin, the size of your dress, or the size of your pants or shoes. And that causes a lot of people to have a lot of pain and anger. And it also leads people down an abusive path to someone who sees them. Because let me tell you something, abusers are on the lookout for people who have low self-esteem. And the reason they have low self-esteem, I'm gonna just be honest, because some piss poor parenting, because some piss poor family relationships that people have not learned how to even learn how to parent. So we show up and we don't know how, we never received the love. And then we show up trying to be parents and don't know how to parent and swear that there's no books when there's books all around. There's people all around that want to have these conversations. And so, Bernita, talk for just a moment so that I can move to Tera and ask a couple more questions. Do you have any statistics or data about the Black-white divide, the Black relationship, or multicultural? And it could be Black-white, Black Latino, Latino-white, whatever.
I don't have any statistics, but just from observation, one of the things that I really want to clear up, we have a tendency to put people in chambers. The Black race, the brown race, the Asian race. There is one race, and that's the human race. And when we get past trying to identify individuals because of the color of their skin, then we will make progress. It's just like that commercial that you see on television that has the X-ray machine that they're showing. And when behind the X-ray machine, everybody looks the same. They just bones. And you don't know if it's male, female, black, white, pink, yellow, green, before they come behind, until they come from behind that screen. We have to stop looking at skin. We have to stop looking at that. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Just because that person doesn't look good to you does not mean that they don't look good to somebody else. And that's the reality of it. And when people look at you and they go like, oh, you something, okay, fine, cool. Then you ain't the one. You don't have to trip. You don't have to try to make yourself into something that you think that that person wants, because that's not the person for you. And then when you get involved with that person, then you end up in that domestic violence relationship because it wasn't the person for you in the first place. You try to change yourself. That's why we need to take time. Getting into relationships is not a somebody, well, I'm going to marry that person at 17. I'm going to marry that person when we get old enough so that we can go get a license. How much do you know about that person? Oh, I have so much I could share with you, but I'm limited in time. But we must stop that. We must take the time that we need to really learn the person. I see, this is just my real quick. What I see is God said, I'm tired of all this mess. So I'm going to cause others to look at others and like others so that you can all get together. And now you got all these mixed individuals. I'm mixed myself. I'm Black, Native American, and Irish. All of us have something else inside of us.
True.
Okay. And that's the reality of it. So there's no purity that we have here. We are pure human beings, and we need to act that way and love each other accordingly.
Girl, speak on it. Speak on it. Yes, ma'am. Tera, I've got a couple of questions for you. I'm going to combine a couple of questions for you. So, who's the target of trafficking, and who are the buyers creating the demand?
So, unfortunately, the victims that are targeted for trafficking are African-American girls between the ages of 12 and 14. And studies, no matter what city that you go in, the stats will be either a little bit higher or a little bit lower. But every city where human trafficking exists, the average age is 12 to 14, and the percentage of girls trafficked are African-American. And we always get asked that question, who are the people buying these girls, creating the demand? And I say it's the men from your church. It's your cousin, it's your husband. And a lot of people get mad at that, but we work stings. And during the sting, the men that are arrested for solicitation of sex are men in city uniforms. They're police officers. They are, they're not just people that we don't know, the creepy man in the van. No, it's men that we know every day. And unfortunately, what they don't understand, they think that girl that's out there is a participant in his desire for sex, because don't get me started about pornography, because he done sat and watched some porno and now he want to act out his fantasy with this little girl. But those girls that are on the streets are somebody's daughter. And they're not consenting because they want to have sex. They're consenting because they have a daily quota that they have to fill. And if they don't fill that quota, like I said earlier, that then they are tortured. And many of these girls that are lured into trafficking, going back, I mean, what Bernita said and what Ben said, when there's a breakdown in the family structure and fathers are not in the home, then what happens is that little girls are then groomed because by older men, because she's looking for a father figure. All of our survivors say, when my pimp showed up and he was flashing money and giving me something that I never had, I was easy prey. You know, you 12 years old and a guy come up to 20 years old buying you Gucci slippers, even if you got it from the sloss. But he buying something, or he took you to McDonald's and got you a meal. Believe it or not, that's enough to get this young girl. And one last thing I'm going to say, that pimps, traffickers use the Maslow's hierarchy of need to lure their victims. Maslow says that everybody has basic needs: love, the need for love and safety, a belonging, and pimps present that as false truth. And all he has to do is give her a little love, give her a place to sleep, and then the next thing you know, he says, okay, baby, what you gonna do for me? And so she feels obligated. She doesn't even realize that she's caught up in a trap until it's too late. Then when she decides, I want to try to get out, then she starts to experience the abuse. But as long as there's a demand, do you know that human trafficking is now a $90 billion industry on the backs of 12 and 14-year-old little girls? And nobody's talking about that. Nobody has a problem with that. And we marching and chanting about a whole bunch of stuff, but girls are going missing, sold from city to city and state to state. And I know we're about to run out of time, but I want to add this one little thing. LA better wake up. The Super Bowl will be here February 11th, 2022. And every city where the Super Bowl is held, there is a huge demand of girls. And pimps bring girls from various cities all over. They're anticipating 200 more additional girls, if not more, brought to the city of Los Angeles because of the demand. And the girls are sold in private parties, even with the NFL and different men, sold You hear me? Auctioned off.
Yes.
A 14-year-old auctioned off for sex. And nobody's talking about that. And so if we want to see change, one, it has to start in our households, but many of them don't have households. They're in foster care. So we have to be the difference, and we have to make the difference, and we have to sound the alarm, and we have to do the education, and we have to hold these men accountable. And pastors that are listening, hold your men accountable in your congregations for watching pornography. Hold men accountable for buying young girls for sex. That's all.
Right.
I'm so sorry.
No, do not apologize, because these conversations must be had, you know, because it's true. I mean, the girls are going to jail and the pimps are walking out.
And the buyers are not being held accountable. Exactly. Yes.
It happens all the time. And especially, you know, we hear about the little girls coming up missing or dead, and then they say, oh, well, you know, she was just a girl. She was just a child. She was somebody's daughter. She's somebody's sister. And there's no reason for this. We have to really start paying attention and saying, what in the world is going on? We can't look at somebody and turn our eyes and be like, that doesn't affect me. Yes, it does. Yes, it affects every single one of us. Every one of those little girls could be your sister, your daughter, could be your mama, could have been your mama, could be your brother or your sister. Okay, so you said something, and I'm going to just bring in Ben and ask, where are the Black fathers? Where are the Black fathers? Ben, where are the Black fathers? Can you hear me? Okay,
Yeah,
we
I can
can't
hear
hear
you. You can't hear me?
Now we can hear you.
Uh-oh. All right. I don't know what's going on.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So where are Black fathers? I think they exist. I used to make a joke about pigeons, like baby pigeons. You see pigeons all over LA, but you never see baby pigeons, as if they don't exist. Black fathers exist. They're all over the place. And I think sometimes we take into account that they're not there. Are there people who aren't doing what they're supposed to do as a role, as a father, the duties of a father? Probably so. But I know a lot of good taking care of their children. I know a lot of good men are taking care of other people. So far in the community, I think there is a wedge set between Black fathers and families altogether. There's so many different dynamics, you know, whether a person goes to jail, they can't come home, can't live in the house, or if the relationship of the children's mother doesn't work out, then it's that becomes a bad situation. You have to make arrangements to spend time out there, because now there are Black up there as to who has the playbook on what a good father looks like or what he should be doing. That's still yet to be found. But I would say for the most part is that finding a common ground that where we can both, you know, interact with our children, spend time with them. Again, I'm a father of 3 daughters and raised them to a certain point myself. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to the mother that allowed me to do that. But I think we have to find a place if the father isn't in the child's life, and find out why, and how can we get the child in that setting. Some it might be a good idea not to have that father around. Some of these jokers don't need in, you know, seen or heard because of some of the things that they're doing. But yeah, I think we need to have more conversations and more interactions to see what is it collectively all around the same what that we can do as Black men to be there for our children and to have a say so in their life and take on that responsibility of help raising our children.
I totally agree. I think first off, let me just be real. Let's talk about know who you even laying down with. And every time you have sex with somebody, automatically assume that a child is going to be born, because that's the real reason that they say sex is, but we are sexual beings. So we like sex. It feels good. But you should not have everybody all up in you. And ladies, let's be accountable and responsible to our own bodies and know who you are having a relationship with. Because trust, when you have sex, you are having a relationship. And in the event you become pregnant, when that child is born, guess what? That child is yours, and also the person that you procreated with to have this child. And so you have to know what's going on. And just because that person, whether it's you as the woman or that person as the man decides, or maybe it's same-sex couples and you have a child, and that person decides that they don't want to be with you anymore, that child still has a responsibility to know who their parent is. And they should be allowed, as long as there's safety, that person is not abusing them, they should be able to have a conversation, a relationship with their mother or their father, because sometimes it's the father that's keeping the mother away, and sometimes it's the mother that's keeping the father away, or the same-sex partner. As long as there's no abuse, that child should be able to engage with their parent. It is really critical that a child knows who they come from. Because we have kids walking around today, and they're not confused based on the color of their skin. They're confused because they don't know who their mama and daddy is. They don't know who their people are. They don't know anything about them. That's really important. Let me just bring this in here. Gia says, I don't think men that are not around as, I don't think that men that are not around as fathers, I think that men are still working to know how to be emotionally intelligent and masculine simultaneously. And I think that's real truth, because, you know, a lot of times we get into this and we have sex, and then we find out, oh, we're about to be a parent, and they're still trying to figure out themselves. So we have to do a better job of learning how to love ourselves, respect ourselves, and respect each other. Our time is coming down to an end. I'm gonna, and there are a couple of questions I want to ask and a point that I want to bring in. So I'm gonna give everyone an opportunity to answer one final question. So let's do this, if we can, in about a minute. Bernita, okay, I'm gonna end with you because this is a long question. So Tera, you did just talk about the Super Bowl coming to LA. Is there hope for victims of human trafficking, and how do we change the narrative in our communities?
There is hope. Organizations like FCI, our goal is to provide prevention, intervention, and aftercare support. We have a safe house in San Bernardino where our residents receive trauma-informed care. We have teams that are on the streets, that go to the streets. And our goal is to bring hope back into her life through loving her unconditionally and helping her to reclaim who she is, giving her beauty for ashes, and help her to understand that although there have been ugly things that she has gone through, she's not ugly. And just helping her to reclaim her body, helping her to reclaim her mind, her sense of purpose. And I'm going to say this, a lot of the residents that we have in our house are artists. These women they can cook. I've had some of the best food from the women in our safe house. They can sew. And so when we begin to reinvest back into these women, then what happens is they can blossom and become the women that they're supposed to be. And so if you are interested in our program, we are at www.fci-la.org. We are a nonprofit and we are privately funded. And so programs like ours, we reinvest back into the community. We do what we say, we show up. And I just want to put this plug. We are launching our 24-hour hotline June the 1st so that we can answer that call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're working directly with law enforcement, and we are getting ready. Not only are we getting ready, but we're going to be on point in them streets the day that when Super Bowl hit. We're launching our campaign, not in our city. You're not bringing that foolishness here. Stay tuned, because we're going to be talking a whole lot about that coming up. So thank you, Candy.
Awesome. Tera, thank you so much. And everyone, not only is she a phenomenal person, but she's also one of our Black women leaders. So trust Black women. Okay, thank you. Ben, so I really want to know what's Detours doing about this community violence, whether it is domestic violence, sexual assault. There's a lot of comments in the chat talking about workshops and classes. Are you conducting workshops, classes? What are you doing? You with me? Ben? All right. Well, Ben, I can't get you, and I don't hear you. Keep on trying. I'm going to bring in Miss Bernita. Bernita, is there a safety plan you can share for the 3 types of personal violent attacks for which you spoke about? And I know I'm going to ask you to keep that at about a minute and a half.
Okay. The best thing that I can say is there is a safety plan. There's a safety plan if you're planning to stay in the relationship as well as one of getting out. It is rather lengthy. There's some things that you need to always have a suitcase ready to go. And in that suitcase, you want to have a change of clothes for yourself and 2 changes of clothes for each one of your children. And then you want to make sure that the people that you know that are on your side, that they have a phone number that they can contact you at all times, and you have a phone number that you can contact them, because you don't know when you have to leave. I don't know how many of you ever saw the movie Enough. I can just use that as a background. Just like Jennifer Lopez had everything ready to go when she had to go, that's the same type of escape that you need to have. That's a good safety plan. You want to make sure that you know how to get to the police station as quickly as possible. Whichever one is closest to you, figure out the way to get there first, because that's very important for your safety as well. And then for that personal plan, I go back to what I shared with you in the beginning. Know who it is that you are dealing with, because if you don't, you may not survive to use that safety plan. It's very important. And I want to say this real quick. I'm taking it real quick. The faith community, we need you. We need you to tell the truth from the pulpit about the situation, or call one of us in so that we can talk to the women and the men, because we got to work on this together. This is just, it's taking our lives and it's unnecessary. So I kept it as short as I can. I put my information in the chat, I believe. I'm going to put it in there again, seeing as though I'm not going to be talking now, so that they'll be able to get in contact with me for the plan as well. And I'll get that plan to you also, Candy. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. So, yeah, that's great. Welcome. Don't go anywhere, because we have some questions, everyone. And so I really want to thank you before I even get into this, because this conversation, we've only just touched this, just the ledge. We skimmed the top. That's what we did. We skimmed the top, and there's so much more that needs to be done. So Lori James says, I would like the panel to present a workshop to Purpose Youth Foundation. We can do that, Lori. All of us collectively can come in and we can conduct a workshop for you, not only for you, but for anyone else, whether it is an individual family, or it's a youth group, or it is a church, or it is a school or nonprofit. If you serve youth, if you serve the community, we can come in and we can support you and the work that you do and conduct these workshops. Max Shorty says, what do the public or community do to make sure, what does the public or community need to do to make sure that every life matters? Anybody want to take that on?
I think it's about raising awareness and holding perpetrators accountable. In order for every life to matter, we have to band together as a community and call a spade, and stop demonizing and re-victimizing the victims of the crimes of human trafficking, of domestic violence. And that's the only way that's going to happen. But until that happens, then we won't see the point of every life mattering.
Yeah.
Exactly. We have to tell each other the truth and not play around with this. Lives is too short as it is. And so we need to make the best of our lives individually and stop encouraging. For one thing, fathers, grown men, stop encouraging boys to have sex with girls. You wouldn't want that to be your daughter.
That's the truth. You don't want that to be your daughter. I think that should be the message. We don't want this to be your daughter, whether she is in an abusive relationship or she is being trafficked. And even we don't want this to be your son, because I can't even begin to tell you how many boys and men have come to us and said, yeah, I was in an abusive relationship. Yes, I was sexually assaulted by their babysitter or their mother or their uncle or their mama's boyfriend or mama's girlfriend. Just, it happens all the time. Can I please tell parents, stop saying stupid stuff to your kids like, that didn't happen. Oh my goodness, they would never do that to you. Yes, it will. Yes, it can, and yes, they do. And then another question. How can we collaborate to combat this issue and get our ladies off of the streets? So I'm assuming that is about girls being sexually assaulted and sex trafficked.
Well, the way that you get the girls off the street is you decrease the demand to have the girls on the street. As long as there's a demand, as long as men and perpetrators of human trafficking are involved, the girls will stay on the street, because the reason they're on the street is because there's a demand for a certain age, for a certain look, for a certain feel. And so until that stops, then there's going to be girls on the streets. Until we start addressing the foster care issue, there's going to be girls on the streets. Until we start addressing the issue of the home, there will be girls on the streets. So that question is a good question, but there's a lot of work that we have to do in order for us to get these girls off the streets.
And I also have to say that we also have to do a better job with foster care. And because there is a serious crack, there's a big giant hole that these kids, we can show a direct correlation from a child being in foster care, going from an abusive home, going into an abusive system of foster care, and then winding up on the streets. How does that happen? Why is it that 90% of the kids that are on the street that are being trafficked, girls and boys, came from foster care? That is a problem, and we must address that. So Ben, it's this panelist, and this is from Rhonda. Please say how watchers can get involved to help change these critical issues. So Ben, how can people get involved with Detours? And then I'd like everyone to answer that question, and I'm going to say thank you. Can we hear you, Ben? No? Okay, I'm so sorry, audience, because Ben has some amazing things that he'd like to share. And so Ben, after we finish and you go back into the audience, please put all of your information, your contact, anything that you wanted to share earlier, please put that in the comment section. I do want to go, before I go too much further, and say bye to everyone and ask them to answer that final question. I do want to also say that there was a comment that said we need to hold the NFL and all of the different agencies and our elected officials accountable and responsible for the violence that has happened to our children in our homes and in our communities. We must hold people accountable and responsible. You can't just show up and just let this happen. And we know what's going to happen. So Tera and Bernita, will end with you. Share with us anything that we can do as a community to assist or support your organization and the work that you're doing.
Thank you. If people want us to come out and do, we have workshops. We have a youth ambassadors program. You can contact us at FCI-LA.org. If you want to get involved, again, you can contact us at FCI-LA.org. I think, you know, part of going back to someone saying, how do we get the girls off the streets, is when the girls see that people actually care and that there are people who love them. We're holding a roundtable at our church, Center of Hope, LA, on June 17th on a Thursday, bringing pastors together to talk about how the church can get into the conversation. And this is in preparation of what's coming to LA. Not only is the Super Bowl coming, but we have 5 major sporting events coming to LA. So tourism is going to increase, and so is the issue of trafficking. So again, visit us at FCI-LA.org. If you're a pastor and you want to attend that meeting, you can email me, Tera at FCI-LA.org, and I would love to just hear from you all. Thank you.
And Tera and everyone, please make sure that you're putting this information in the chat, because we're going to share that with anyone who didn't have an opportunity to join us today. Bernita, let's hear from you.
Okay, the question was about the watchers. You know, the issue is that, what are you involved in? Are you involved, or are you just talking and seeing things and not doing anything? This is not a their effort. This is our effort. So we must come together, get involved. Yes. Everybody has at least 2 hours a week that they can put into different programs to where they can address the issue and can be trained so that they understand what is not working for us. I am on several committees. Right now we're doing DVC, Domestic Violence, and Department of Children and Family Services, trying to figure out the situation of why we have the problem we have with DCFS and our foster care system. That's another thing. There's so much that you can get involved in. Do not be on the wayside. One of the ways that you can assist us is donate. We need funds. We all need funds. Now, what I can do for you, I can come and speak for no charge, but just donate to the agency. Okay, I don't get paid for, God pays me for doing what I do. So that gives me the opportunity to share from my heart, from my lived experience, what I've seen, what I've worked with. And we need you to tell the truth, and let's work together about addressing these issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ben, we're going to try and one more time. Are you able to say anything? No? All right. Well, listen, I really want to thank you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Taco. Yes, I can hear you. Okay, now I can't hear you.
Okay, how about now?
Now I can hear you. All right, so give us your final thoughts, Ben.
Okay. No. Oh, okay. No, I just want to say and echo. First of all, thank you for allowing me to be here with such great women and great conversation. Just want to echo what Dr. Walker was saying. Get involved. You know, find out what's going on in your community. Last year, 729 people were killed in LA County. 95 of them were women. Let's see if we can just check in with each other and check on our neighbor. Yeah, somebody told me the greatest command is to love your neighbor as you love up with. Know your neighbor. How you gonna love? That's my final. You don't know.
Thank you so much. So, Bernita Walker, Tera Hilliard, Ben Owens, I thank you so much for taking your time today, sharing your thoughts, your work, your skills, your knowledge. You are greatly appreciated, and we thank you so much for joining us. So, ladies and gentlemen, this conversation is so rich. We're going to continue, but I do want to bring up the fact I want to really talk about really quickly how violence has impacted everyone. Over the weekend, there was 71 in the 72-hour period, there were over 440 people that were shot. And a good percentage of the over 400 mass shootings that have happened just recently, and I say 400 because it's been a lot, that a lot of them have a lot to do with domestic violence. So we have to learn how to really have conversations, how to learn how to trust and love and respect each other so that we can prevent the violence and the abuse. So on that note, I just again want to say thank you to my guests. We're going to jump right into this next conversation about community violence. And I'm super excited to bring up, and let me just say this, all of the people I'm excited about because I've worked with all of them. I know their work, I know their heart, and I want to bring up this next group of people. We're going to, one person who wasn't, let's see, do I see him? I don't see him yet. So I'll bring up Deputy Chief Emada Tingirides and Assistant Commanding Officer Joel Lopez, and they're both with LAPD. We also have a couple of other guests with us. Max Shorty is in the house today. And come on up, Max Shorty. And also, we should be seeing Reverend JJ. And so hopefully he'll be joining us in a little bit. And while we're waiting for Reverend JJ to join us, oh, okay, I see him now. Come on up, Reverend JJ. Y'all see, we have a full house up here right now. And I'm excited to welcome this dynamic panel. Let's start with Deputy Chief Emada Tingirides. And why don't you introduce yourself very briefly? Tell us who you are and what you do.
Thank you so much for having me, Candy, and for all of your efforts that you are embarking on to achieve equality and social justice in our community, as well as addressing the trauma and the violence. What you are doing brings hope and healings to community, and I'm honored to be here today. My name is Emada Tingirides. I am a Deputy Chief with the Los Angeles Police Department, and I oversee the Community Safety Partnership Bureau.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chief Tingirides. Next, let's bring on Joel Lopez. Joel, tell us what you do.
Hello. Hi, Candy. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this.
Melvin,
panel.
come here.
I've, had the pleasure of working with you almost 10 years, and not only working with you, but also learning from your mentorship and learning from what you did to help this community. And I feel as blessed as the community is to be a partner with you and to be mentored by you in this theater. So thank you so much for inviting me. My name is Joel Lopez, and I'm the Assistant Commanding Officer underneath Chief Emada Tingirides for the Community Safety Partnership Bureau that was just recently.
That light, that circle light.
And I've been involved with CSP for 10 years.
Circle light over there.
Emada Tingirides and I were initially kind of tasked with developing this program back in 2011. So an honor to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We're happy to have you here. Reverend JJ, so let me just tell you all, Reverend JJ, I thank you so much for joining us. Reverend JJ was not on the flyer, but we cannot talk about partnership without having Reverend JJ in the house, because this man, he creates partnerships everywhere he goes. So Reverend JJ, introduce yourself.
Well, praise God. I thank, well, first and foremost, I do want to thank my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I go nowhere without doing that. But I'm thankful for the panel, all that you put into this, Candy. We've worked together for so many years, and we've always been. I always told you too that anytime you need to be a part of anything you do, just give me a call. Now this actually, and I want to congratulate you on the last panel that was on. That was a lot of wealth of knowledge, and I love coming together with my folks. And speaking of good subway, everyone you have on this panel, right? We go way back, and we have real relationships. That's what it's all about. In this life, we only have it's just relationship and choices. At the end of the day, of course, your most important relationship is with God. But I thank God for each for you and everyone you have on this panel and the panel before, and all of God's people doing this work. But I wear many hats in the community. But today I'm representing our South Bureau Ministerial Alliance.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Reverend JJ. And Max Shorty is in the house. He's getting his lighting together. But in the meantime, in between time, Go ahead and tell us who you are and what you do, Max Shorty.
So I'm Max Shorty. I am the founder of Community Repower Movement, a community engagement organization. I also serve on the Watts Neighborhood Council. I serve as the Public Safety Commissioner for Assembly District 64 and Senate District 35 under Assembly Member Mike Gibson and Senator Stephen Bradford. And I just want to thank Ms. Lewis for bringing these kind of conversations together, because it's work like this. When communities gather together, no one can be against us. And thank you.
It's my pleasure. I'm excited to really bring these conversations. Again, I want to thank our sponsors for really making sure that these conversations were had, and really to really put a pin in advancing social justice. And see, that advancing part is about having these conversations, moving this forward, that we're not just having them in silos, that we're bringing everyone together. Like here, we've got law enforcement, we've got community, we've got faith-based, we've got youth serving agencies, and then we have the community that's not only here participating in this conversation, but also those that are watching on Facebook, and then when we send it out again. And I neglected to mention one of the things that we're doing with this conversation. So we have a person that is going to be evaluating every conversation, every word that is mentioned, and all of the chats. And we're documenting everything, because we really want to build this blueprint, a blueprint for violence prevention. And we need everyone to have that conversation. And then once we complete this assessment and evaluation, we will then share it with the community so that we can see what's best steps. What can we do next? How can we support each other? So on that note, let's move right on into this. And I'm gonna start with you, Reverend JJ. What are we missing in our communities?
Unfortunately, as Reverend, I call him Reverend Taco stated earlier, we're missing love. See, I'm unapologetically a man of God, and I don't, I don't mix words when it comes down to that. First and foremost, that's what we're missing, the compassion. When Jesus talks about, he tells the story, what we've known as a Good Samaritan. He didn't talk about the, at the end of the day, he was challenged. He was challenged to ask the question, who is my neighbor? And at the end of the day, it all came down to what he expects out of us, what he demands us to do, that we show love one for another. Who showed the compassion? The least likely, the Good Samaritan was the least likely to pick the man up, make a long story short, the man who got jacked and left in the ditch. The Levite and the priest passed over, but it was the Good Samaritan that did what God would have us to do. And that's a lot of times. We have a lot of misnomers. A lot of times we got myths, historical, falsehoods that's been, shared over the years, and a lot of times it just comes back to us if we just use our basic, just common sense. Love one another. I can tell you, relationship, when I sit here and I look at Emada and watch from where she's come and what we've come through. I was a pastor she did her first testimony in the Nicholson Gardens at a service that we put on, at 6 o'clock in the evening, unlikely place. A lot of stuff goes on, that never even gets out. All the great work that we've done, the city here looking at Shorty and Joel, that we've done out in the community of Watts, that never, you never hear about, all the positive stuff that goes through, but it's a negative. So at the end of the day, we're missing that transparency and love.
That's the truth. And there has been some amazing work that has been done in partnership in Watts. And so, Deputy Chief Emada Tingirides, congratulations for everyone. For anyone who doesn't know that you've been promoted to Deputy Chief, that's pretty powerful. Yes. Again, trust Black women. So can you tell me, what is the CSP program and how does it prevent community violence?
The CSP program stands for Community Safety Partnership, and it really started with the community, with the demand that there be safety and accountability and relationships built in the community, on the community side and the law enforcement side. So in 2011, we selected police officers to work in the public housing developments, specifically in Watts, in Jordan Downs, Nickerson Gardens, Imperial Courts, and we were in Ramona Gardens in East Los Angeles. The primary mission of the Community Safety Partnership Program is to increase safety, public safety, and increase trust with our community. Officers are assigned to these communities for a 5-year period. They walk footbeats, they attend meetings, they engage with the youth, they address quality of life issues, and they do it with their heart. Pastor JJ, Reverend JJ talked about love, having the ability to understand the culture, what's going on in the community, embrace those cultures, and meet people in the middle, utilizing compassion and love to get things done is really what the CSP program is about.
Wow, thank you so much for that. And I've witnessed it. I know it works. Joe, what are some of the things your officers do to build trust and to increase safety in the community?
Well, you know, and to answer this question, it's really kind of following up on Chief Tingirides, and she was talking about the compassion, the working with your heart, and really providing the opportunity for the officers to ingrain themselves into the community, to really become a fabric of the community, and to really begin to understand the community so they can see the community through the lens of the community. And so part of that is engaging officers in the community meetings. So for example, the CSP program started in the public housing developments. So it was a matter of coming in with that heart and with that compassion, and really using the training that they got up to that point, which was, training on understanding the community, how to police the team brain, really understanding the conflict and the economic, disenfranchisement this community had faced, really understanding the schools. So coming in with that perspective and that background and that heart and that compassion, and really mixing them into the fabric of the community, going to the Reverend Advisory Council meetings, attending all the different prayer circles, going to Watts Gang Task Force, to Neighborhood Council, to sit back and understand that the community that they were being tasked with now taking on this kind of guardian mentality, moving away from the traditional norm of policing, warrior mentality, and taking in this guardian mentality, but developing that understanding in that community. Footbeats are a big part of it. The sports programs that we started to, again, create an opportunity for officers to engage with youth under a different context, not when they're responding to a crime, not when somebody's been a victim of a crime, but when they're interacting, no different than officers in other communities interact with children in a positive manner.
Yeah, thank you. So Max Shorty, I know you're over there trying to get that lighting right, but can you go ahead and share with us, where do you see public safety in 21-22? Probably it meant 2022.
Yes. So right now there's things that are taking place, and it's conversation and women and minorities being placed, like Emada, in positions and Joe in positions, so that minority people understand minority people. No disrespect to our Caucasians brothers, but if you haven't felt the struggle before, you don't understand it.
Yeah.
And the struggle in communities are real. When I first heard Emada's story, she growing up in Watts, Mike Gibson from Watts, Stephen Bradford from Gardena, to know that the people that are here to represent us are from the same very ground that we walk on. Joe, East LA, right, Joe? I mean, to know this is to make it a better community. Someday we'll see a mayor from South Los Angeles, and that might be Captain T, Emada's husband, who knows how to communicate with people. That's what it's all about. I tell my mayor all the time, look, don't be afraid. In order to have friends, you got to show yourself to be friendly. I learned that in church.
That's true.
A pastor instilled that in me. Despite your circumstance, Max Shorty, show yourself to be friendly in order to have friends. So we live in a society now where we have to be friendly because we're all in this together. It's like gumbo cooking. You're no good without the okra. You're no good without the chicken. You're no good without the filet. You know, Rev JJ know what I'm talking about. You know, you can't get no greens without no good fat back or no smoked meat in it. So we talking community here,
Right.
And the community needs to be able to sit down and stop, arguing. And everybody that had their issues, we all done had our issues with each other. Nobody's perfect, but guess what? When we all are able to come together, we make things better.
Yes, that is so true. And you mentioned everyone. So my first house when I was born, not when I was born, but when I was like 3 years old, we lived in Watts. And I am born and raised in South Los Angeles. My mother is born and raised in South Los Angeles. I love this community. I was born here. I will die here unless I'm on a vacation somewhere. But it's important that people look up and they're able to see themselves. In order to be trusted, you have to be part of the community. You have to live, work, and worship in the community in order for us to really bond, because even though we all look different and our cultures may be different, there's a lot of similarities. And so I'm glad you brought that up. Reverend JJ, are you optimistic about the future of our communities?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I have no doubt, because like I mentioned earlier, you know what you've experienced, you know what you've been a part of. A lot, we have so much great stuff going on, not only, I could say, throughout our city, but throughout our nation. And it's just a matter of us coming together, using the best practices, being transparent and honest about what, really works. Again, we have so much great, if the folks just knew right here in Los Angeles, knew all the great work that just been going on in Watts for that, 15 years, 30 years. But we don't, it's a matter of us getting, somebody said it earlier, I think the panel that came on before us, that it's a matter of getting that information out there, and when you have folks that are in position and power, this is, I believe with all my heart, God is strategically putting people in place in different areas, like Emada, like Joe, like folks that to in those positions that historically you wouldn't have seen there, because it was all about either that military type bash you over the head, I'm the big eye, you that type. But it's a different game. I thank God for you for the mayor and how the different investments he's putting into, and the police chief, and how they when he's talking about defunding, really just should be not defunding, but that's terminology. We are reallocating, and we're doing things in different ways. I see Capri is in the audience today, and I'm excited about that office. I can't wait to get working over there in that office, civil rights and humanitarian, bringing, because my thing is to do whatever I can do to bring our communities together. I'm gonna leverage anything. So I'm very optimistic as to where we're going. Looking forward to, again, dealing with not just on a local, but even on a national and global work and bringing us together.
Thank you, Reverend JJ. And I'm glad you mentioned Capri Maddox, who's in the house. And I'm super excited because let me just announce here, in case you hadn't heard, yesterday, day before yesterday, I was appointed as the newest commissioner to the Civil and Human Rights Commission. And I'm excited to do the work. Thank you. We have to all put our time in, because we have to work together. And that's really why I was excited to bring in all of you to talk about how we can collectively make a difference and make a change. So, Chief Tingirides, how does CSP officers respond to violence and critical incidences in the community? And let me just say this. We know there's excellent officers, and then we know there's problematic officers. We know that there's great community members. We know that there's problematic community members. But in order for us to really address we've got to be honest. So I'm glad we're having this conversation, and I'm glad you're here to share some of your thoughts about how do CSP officers respond to violent and critical incidences in the community.
Candy, that's such a great question. And it's also an unfortunate question to have to ask. And yes. I'm sitting here thinking about what has gone on in our beloved South LA and in Watts since COVID. And we have seen an increase in victimization, victims shot, homicides, and crimes against, violent crimes against others. And it's very disheartening. And everyone asks, what are the causes? And I think there's so many reasons why. When COVID hit, people lost their jobs and people couldn't put food on the table. And when you lose your jobs and you can't put food on the table, you become desperate. And by any means, you're going to try to take care of your family. And victimizing someone is not the answer, but those who have not coped with the trauma and the stresses in their community can sometimes feel desperate and result to that. So COVID hit the community really hard. We recently had back-to-back homicides in one of our housing developments in Watts. And one of the incidents happened on a playground next to the victim's children. And our CSP officers knew the victim because of the relationships that they have built, but they were out there on foot, and they were hurting too. And that empathy that they had to rally together and go to the family, to get resources to come out, children exposed to gun violence, to walk out in the community with the officers, to find the children that were there, to ensure that they get the trauma counseling and the resources that they needed after they saw their father gunned down due to a verbal argument. And then going back day after day to check on that family. We did a prayer circle in the middle of that housing development, and we had prayer. We allowed the community to host a repast and acknowledge the pain and light candles and attempt to heal from those incidents. And I can tell you 10 years ago, and Shorty Mac and Pastor JJ can attest to this, when there was a violent crime or a shooting, we would have back and forth incidents for days at a time with people just being killed. The impact that our community leaders and community intervention workers have had to prevent the back and forth shootings against gangs is truly powerful. We have seen an increase in shootings across the city, but not necessarily in our public housing developments. And that's because of the relationships that have been built, the intervention and crisis intervention workers in the community, our faith-based coming out, our nonprofit organizations and resources to help community members address conflict with their minds and their hearts, not with a gun, is part of a public health approach to addressing violence in our communities, but doing it alongside law enforcement. Pastor JJ talked about reallocating funds for our community. I truly believe that there are people in the community, unarmed response, that are community leaders, that a young kid who may want to become a gang member may not listen to a cop, but he's going to listen to somebody that represents that community. And they have a huge role to play in our community. I support reallocation of resources to invest in communities, to work alongside of law enforcement to make it safe.
Did you just run for mayor? That sounded like to me.
Candy, could I add something to that too, to the chief's comment?
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know, one of the things that the chief touched upon that was so critical also, that the response by our CSP officers is to critical incidents in community is not just at the point of where, you know, there's crimes that are committed. That follow-up families that were victims of that crime. It's a follow-up with the children, with the parents. One of the homicides that occurred recently, we had officers followed up, brought resources to the family victims, helped them pay for a hotel out of pocket, brought in food, brought in assistance to that family that suffers that tragedy, and worked with exposed to gun violence, worked with CI, with all the different partnerships that make CSP what it is, made sure that that family received services and was taken care of, and check on the children. This whole notion of we really is the fabric of CSP. We, the community, we, the CSP officers, there's a very big we in everything that we do. So it's not just a responsibility of coincidence, it's the after that continues to happen with our officers and the community.
Thank you very much, Joel. That is so critical that we have, a full support circle, that it doesn't just end with the person and the repast and the funeral, but there has to be a whole circle of care. And Deputy Chief of Monitoring Reasons, I wasn't playing it. What you said was so important. Everyone is saying, Janet Kelly says that you're a great example of compassionate response to policing, and this is a different process of doing together instead of apart. And when I said, it sounds like you just ran for mayor, because that's what we need. We need a partnership that acknowledges and accepts everyone, because there's so many people that need to play a role in it, that we do need to see our community being serviced not only by police officers, but those that are unarmed, that are trained to address mental health and domestic violence and other situations where a gun may not be necessary. So thank you so much for that. Let's talk to Max Shorty. All lives matter. What is that? All lives? All Black lives? What kind of lives?
All lives. Some years ago, there was a Latino young man holding his baby in Watts, and we lost that baby. And I had my dad mortuary, my godfather's mortuary, take care of that family. Yeah. I never go about boasting what I do for the community or who I help, because when blessings goes up, blessings comes down. And when I see that family, the young man, I paid for the grandmother and the grandfather to come from Mexico, had to pay for a visa, had to pay for plane tickets. And I'm a loved one of a homicide victim. My mother was shot in 91 in Watts, murdered. Was told by my therapist to, why you want to help those people? They killed your mother, But then I remember having a praying mother and a praying grandmother. And my grandparents came to Watts by right of the civil rights movement. I used to walk knocking on doors to help my grandmother start the first IHS home care union. And every time I do something, I always honor those that came before us, because if it wasn't for them, it wouldn't be no us. I remember I cried when I wanted my first pair of Jordans. My grandmama told me she pressed the sheets for 25 cents an hour. So when I say all lives matter, our foreparents and grandparents didn't go through all that they went through so that we can be the terrible actors we are behaving today. It's times I go out at Inglewood Cemetery, I just lay on top of my grandmother and grandfather and I just cry out, just give me the strength to keep holding on, to keep pushing for a better America, a better Watts, a better America, better California. Just when you look at the things that's taking place, like Emada said, young man gunned down in front of his children. That eats, if that don't eat at your soul and tell you it's time to quit playing with life.
Yeah.
What kind of person shoots a person in front of his kids? I mean, so all lives matter. You hear this Black Lives Matter stuff with the police and all that. But you don't never hear him say all lives matter. All people lives matter. The women we find dumped in Watts murdered, they lives matter. You know, these kids' lives matter that who father was taken before them. It shouldn't have to be the CSP helping. The community should have been there, you know, and we all in this together. Watts is only 2.12 mile big. It used to go to Slauson, used to go south to 120, but as redistricting keep coming in place, it keeps shrinking and shrinking. But all lives must matter. All lives. All lives.
All lives.
That pass away, the clergy that dies, the nurses that's working in the COVID unit that's out there servicing, and they got to go home to their family, their lives matter. We are in a state of emergency. And the only way we're going to get through this is together. Folks mad at the governor because he closed stuff down. I ain't mad because I couldn't go to Denny's. He helped me lose 10 pounds. You know, I'm mad for him. You know what I'm saying? You can't get mad. So, you know what I'm saying? When you look at it, how much do we really lose? Nothing. Some discomfort, but that's about life. My grandpa told me there's always going to be discomforts in life. You got to live with it. You got to adjust. But public safety is a concern because we must continue to support the blue. You know, our officers need our support, and they know I argue back and forth with them. I love them today, hate them tomorrow. Me and Emada's husband, we didn't get along, and I used to get up in meetings and tell people, hey, me and him will argue, but guess what? Tomorrow I'm going to love him, and ain't nothing he can do about it. Because that's the God in me.
I think we've forgotten this one important word. It's called respect. We have to learn how to respect one another. You may not like what a person does. You may not like the job they have. You may not even like who they are with. You may not like how they look. But we still have to learn how to respect one another. And that is key and critical. So our time, you know what? I love this. I hate this because this time flies by so quickly. Emada, let me ask you this question. What are some prevention and intervention programs the community can participate in to build capacity and to also engage the youth in our communities? And you know, I'm all about the kids because we've got to build up and strengthen our kids so that they will recognize that they have the ability, that they are loved and appreciated, and that they are our future.
Candy, you asked that, and I just had a flashback. I remember being young when I first got back to work in Watts, and I was so excited, and I was at Watts Gang Task Force, and I was saying, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this. We're going to do this with the kids. And it may have even been Shorty Mac that stood up and said, hold on a minute, sister. How are you going to stand in front of us and tell us what you're going to do for our kids in our community? And, you know, for a second, I took it personal, like, wow, really? And then it really humbled me, and I thought about it, and I thought, nobody knows what's best for a child than that child's family or that community. And the best thing that we can do is listen and understand and ask a key question. What can we do for you to make you whole? What can we do to enhance your capacity so that you can become a leader to give back and engage in your community? And that really humbled me. And our officers set out to walk footbeats and start asking kids and families, what do you want? What if you could play a sport, what would it be? If you could have a program, what would it be? And I remember we had done some research, and one of the girls had asked one of our officers, oh, how come we don't have Girl Scouts here? There's no Girl Scout troops here. And so we did some research and found out that we didn't have any close nearby Girl Scout troops. So we created Girl Scout troops, and we did them at the schools. And then we asked the teachers to get engaged and involved. And we took girls to go decorate the Rose Bowl floats, the Rose Parade floats. They'd never been to Pasadena before. And we then brought the family and invited them so that we could have a holistic approach to addressing that whole child. And a lot of people said, you're police officers. It's not your job to do programming. It's not your job to get engaged and work with the youth. But I will tell you, in our 10 years working alongside PRC, working alongside the council district offices, partnering with the Boys and Girls Club at all of the rec centers, partnering with the Watts Neighborhood Council and the Watts Gang Task Force, participating in the Summer Night Lights to ensure that whether it be a cop cooking on the grill to make sure that kid gets his burger or his hot dog during Summer Night Lights, because that might be the only time that he eats. It's everybody's responsibility to engage in programming and get involved. So you have to find out what resources are available. And if they're not available, you need to demand it. You need to go to the Watts Neighborhood Council. You need to go to your council district office and say, we don't have this here. We need this here. And what can we do collectively to get this here? So some of our programs are officer-led, or Watts Rams, or Knicks Kids soccer team. But one of the things that we've done is brought in the families in the communities to work alongside of us so that we can build relationship with these kids and see them no different than ourselves, and see them outside of a radio call and outside of a tragic incident. And I will tell you, LAPD officers love and care about the communities that they serve. And the youth is what gets them and keeps them coming back every day to work in the community.
I so agree. And you know what, whoever told you that to really talk to the community and talk to the kids, whether it was Max Shorty or whoever it was, deserves mad props and mad respect. We cannot create programs without engaging the people that we are providing the programs for. We can do an outline, and then we need to bring people in and say what works, what looks good, what doesn't look good. That's what makes a trusted partnership. That's one of the things that is, I'm gonna say it, great about Positive Results Center, because all of the work that we do, especially with our youth, we bring them in and we say, well, what do you want? What do you need? What's working? What's not working? What is important to you? Because a lot of times people ride in on their little white horse and say, yeah, I'm going to save the world. Well, the world don't need saving. So somebody, for instance, somebody who is in an abusive relationship, they don't necessarily want to leave the relationship, but maybe they need some food. Maybe they need some clothes. Maybe they need a computer so that their kids can go to school. Maybe they do need a way, an out for that night or a week or two. Maybe that child who is acting out really needs somebody to just sit down and have a conversation with them and say, you know what, how you doing today? Because I know we even do hug therapy when we could be in person. We would do hug therapy. We'd have a conversation, and I'd say, I'm going to stand at the back of the room, and as you leave out, if you want a hug, just come and get one. I'm here. And you'll be surprised at how many kids would be like, oh, Miss Candy, you're the first person I hugged today. You're the first person I hugged this week. We have to provide what they want, and we have to engage them and ask those questions. Thank you.
That's why we gonna support you for the mayor of Los Angeles.
Right. Who? Emada, right? Exactly. I'm with that. Okay, so Joel, what does your community engagement coordinators do to engage with youth?
You know, talking about youth programming and the importance of youth programming and how it changes context by which youth interact with law enforcement, right? The usual context in these communities when they've been a victim of a crime or when they're being arrested for a crime. Youth programming really changed that, and to Chief's point, you know, allowing these officers to get to know the community, the youth to get to know the officers. So two things, right? Right now, I have children and I'm desperately waiting for programming, soccer to open up, get my kids involved in something. The officers see that in the community that they work in. Those are their children. They're asking me every day, when does programming open? When does the COVID guidelines change? When can we get kids on vans? Those officers, those are their children in those communities, and they want to see them get in sports for what it means. But I'll tell you what's bigger than getting a kid into sport, getting their parent to be a part of that, and getting their parent to watch their kid play sports changes that parent, and it changes that child when they're in an activity and mom and dad are there. It creates a moment of pride. It creates a moment of commitment by both of them. And so our officers really work hard to not only engage the youth in the programming, but to try to engage the parents and have them understand how that interaction, watching your child be in an activity, changes both of you.
That is so true. You know, I've had so many kids say, well, you know, my mama doesn't care. My daddy don't care. Nobody really cares. And when we show that, when you show a child that you care, that child then cares. And let me just say this for any parent that is out there watching, listening, or that will hear this, if you are not engaged with your children, if you are not showing up for their games or for their events, or you're not showing up at school, guess what? That school is saying, okay, so nobody cares about this kid, so why should I care? And then that kid is saying, well, my teachers don't care, my parents don't care, why should I care? And then you want to know, why did that kid drop out? Well, why aren't they doing this? And why aren't they showing their potential? Because we did not invest in their potential. And that is something that we have to do. We must invest in our kids and their potential. Max Shorty, okay, so wait, let me ask you this. So we are at 7:25, and we're scheduled to end at 7:30. So that means we have 5 minutes. But I see people in here saying, I need to turn this clock off and not pay attention. So what y'all want to do? We got 5 more minutes, or we can give you maybe 10 more minutes. What you want to do?
We can go to 10.
Okay.
You know, I just want to thank you, because I remember when I was going through some issues. I was homeless and I was sleeping in my car, and my daughter was about to graduate, and you gave her that prom dress, and you know, I won't throw it away. I don't throw that red dress away or those shoes. I just haven't found nobody big enough to frame it for me, because I'm retiring from the Watts Neighborhood Council, and I'm going to focus more at the state level to make sure that underserved communities receive the money in their portion, because people seem to think that decisions are made at Los Angeles City Hall. Well, me being a policy guy and knowing the truth, I know how to jump on that Greyhound. I know how to jump on that freeway at 8 o'clock night to be in Sacramento for in the morning, showered and clean with my suit on, office to office, advocating for what we need. But it's people like you and Emada and Joe and JJ that makes communities great. Great. And you know, we just need a lot more people to come on board. Let's stop the infighting. You know,
yeah.
There's a job for every one of us. I don't want to be the chief. I follow good directions.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you let me be the chief, we might end up on a dead end. So I'm just going to be a worker bee. You know, let me be a worker bee. You know, but it's because when you have partnerships like you looking at the four of us and you together, you know, we can't do nothing but make it better for our kids. It's not about us. I'm 52 years old. I didn't live my life. What I'm gonna do? I ain't gonna try to get out there and play no basketball with them kids and have no heart attack. I'll buy some balls and blow them up, but you ain't gonna get me out there, give me no heart attack. I'll barbecue some hot dogs or something, to buy some hamburgers. But this is what it's about, you know. This is what it's about: coming together, working, and making a better community.
Candy, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So, and this is for help for us. I know a lot of people across the country are hurting right now from the aftermath of the killing of George Floyd, and that incident at some point felt like to the community, it defined all of law enforcement. And it felt like that for our officers as well. And so my question is, how do you get people to be willing, you know, we have truth and reconciliation, but to be willing to sit down at the table and at least be willing to have the dialogue to talk about making change. And we can't force them or make them because we're seen as the enemy. And even though that happened in a different state, it's their fault. But, and I understand that pain and that anger. I understand it. How do we get people from our community that can speak on our community to sit down at the table and at least be willing to have these critical discussions about police and community relations?
So I'm so glad you asked that question, and I'm going to let everyone answer that as well, but let me go ahead and start off. Our agency, Positive Results Center, wrote a proposal, and it was accepted by POST, which is Peace Officer Standards and Training, where we are now approved trainers to walk in and work with LAPD, Los Angeles Sheriff Department, Long Beach Police, and also San Bernardino Police, which these agencies have had the highest rates of violence against Black people. And when George Floyd hit, it hit across the world, and it was personal, because we saw ourselves in that position. So Positive Results Center is now able to go and work with the police officers and train them on cultural diversity. But what we're doing is we're bringing in the community. So if there are any people in the community that want to sit down and have a conversation with LAPD and the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, contact us. Our information is info. Send an email to us with your name and your email. Of course, it's going to have your email and your phone number. And we will reach out to you so that you can be part of it. And you can reach us at info@prc123.org, or you can go onto our website, which is prc123.org, and scroll down, sign up for our newsletter. We'll be sending out notices to you so that we can bring the community. And that is, we're particularly talking about Black people. Black people from age 16 to 85 to sit down and meet with for about 2.5 hours and have a real honest, open dialogue with the police, with law enforcement officers about how can we work together as a community. How does this feel when officers show up and we feel like it's being disrespectful? We want to hear also from officers, what are you experiencing? Because see, I know what I know, but I also don't know what I don't know. So let me ask Reverend JJ that question. What do we need to do?
As I said earlier, we have to be honest, be transparent. Like I said, God is at his time. Even that move back with that George Floyd is really, it's a blessing at the end of the day, because it caught everybody's attention. Now, how God works things. Those that know, I also run Gangsters for Christ. One of our brother organizations, Stop the Killing, is out of Houston, very close with Floyd, George's family, and they are determined to do just like I am, to tell the truth. Their family are being transparent and honest. Now, if you can't get behind them, it's just that family, what they went through, and they were willing to tell the truth and be honest and sit down and know that there's a lot of good officers out there that they know. About to tell you, Rita, I as far back as we go. She tell you we got a little joke we call, but it's reality. When we should call each other, get 5 on it. 5 on it. All of that relates to, even when the winers don't have enough to get their drink out of the stove, well, they piece up. Say, I got 5 on it. And they bring what they get to the table to get the results that we need. And all the years, I have never came all the years, and I knew because she had these strikes. always, all the way up, whatever she could do to help the situation. So now I can't be, I got to be transparent and honest about that. Just tell the truth. That's what we have to do. We have good, there's good and evil, and every, I don't care what sector of life you in. So we just have to be honest and transparent. That's what we have. Bye.
Yeah, that's the truth. Max Shorty.
We don't need Reverend Al Sharpton. We don't need Ben Crump. We don't need Jesse Jackson. There's a lot of people we don't need to speak for us, because number one, we are a community that has suffered enough. They don't know our suffering. And to come into town and say they feel us, how could you feel us if you ain't been here more than 3 days? You have to live it in order to feel it. I lost my mother. Am I angry my mother was murdered? No. That's God to pass judgment, not me. My job is to make sure that the next family don't suffer the way I had to suffer. Because you know what? They may have to deal with it worse than I did. And when I think about it, it's all about people coming together and dialoguing, putting a bunch of chairs, coffee, donuts, whatever it takes.
Yes.
You know, a doctor once told me, Mac, anytime you want to have a meeting, if you have food, people gonna show up.
You know they will.
If you put free food on a flyer, they gonna show up. So it's conversations like this. We get the food, we gonna get the people. And we can sit down, space the tables out, and honestly be honest. Because I know there's days after dealing with my community, I have to go home and have a little wine. You know, so I know, you know, and you know, but I love them.
Right. And you're a grown man. You can do what you want to do.
I love them. You know, but my job is, you know, when I see the homeless people and I ask myself, do I not buy this person something to eat? Then I say, ooh, I sure hate to get to heaven. And the Lord say, you saw my son or my daughter hungry and you didn't feed them? You know, and when you look at our community, it's being dumped on. But guess what? People in Watts, we love all nationalities. We gonna accept you up or down, divorced, married, single, separated, gay, bi, whatever you want to be. Come to Watts, because we gonna love on you. Period. Period. Just don't come causing no trouble, no fights and all that. We gonna love on you. It's our job in Watts to help you better yourself. And that's bringing people together. That's how we gonna do this thing.
Yes. And that's important, that we show respect, that we show love, that we accept people. And, you know, one of the things that Positive Results does is when we show up, we talk to the community and they say, what do you need? Like you said so many times, there are people who don't get meals. They don't get food. So every event we have, we give food. And we provide all of our programs and services to the community for free. And let me just say thank you for acknowledging the prom dress gift away. And it's called Gift Away, where we gifted brand new and gently used clean clothes for young ladies for people, because we've had some young men that showed up that wanted a gown, from size 0 to size 30, and shoes from size 4 to size 14. And not only did we give them the shoes, the dress, the jewelry, makeup, hair, hygiene, we also provided them with food, because we know that so often that is one of the, it's a necessity and people don't have it. Our communities are lacking, not because we don't deserve it and not because we don't want it, but because we don't get the support, we don't get the investment. And that is one of the reasons I'm loving this conversation, because investments look different. The investment tonight is this conversation so that we can address what the needs are. So we're going to go ahead, and Janet Kelly says, PRC has a special skill set of community facilitation. all the more reason why our community should invest in the work, in our work, and click now and donate. Thank you, Janet. That's right. You all see that up there. It says donate now. Yeah. Donate now, and your donation, whether it is $1, $100, $500, $5,000, or $100,000, will go to the community. We use all of our funds to invest in the community, and that means we reinvest and partner with other agencies who may not have that funding so that we can provide for the community. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and ask everyone to give us one final statement. We've gone over our time a little bit, and I'm thankful to all of the audience that's still here, for those of you who have asked us to go over a little bit longer. So let's start with, let's go to Joel. Joel, let's start with you, and why don't you go ahead and give a final statement of anything that you like, and also make sure that each one of you has put your information in the comment section so we know how to share with the community and also speak it out loud.
Together, I think PRC is extremely important in really helping guide the conversation nationally about the community and the work that's being done in partnership with law enforcement with the community. Because I think that there's this other narrative out there that's pushing community versus law enforcement that's really, not showcasing what is actually happening in the communities that others people try to speak for. So I think that you are an important and a powerful voice and champion for that effort. And I hope that, you continue doing what you do, so that way you can really speak truth to power for what's really happening.
Thank you so much, Joel. I appreciate that. And let me just say, I love and appreciate that, but I want everybody to give a final statement, not necessarily about PRC, but also about the work that you do, because we can't do any of this without each other. This partnership is critical. So share with the community not only what you do, but any last thoughts on community or partnership or safety. Thank you. Let's go to Reverend JJ.
Okay, but we would be remiss. I gotta say something good about you at the end of the day. We love you and the work you're doing. No, but this has been awesome. We just want everyone to, I want to encourage everyone to stay connected. We have all our information over in our chat. God is moving. He's moving in a special way. So let's bring, at the end of the day, let's be transparent. Just be honest about what we're doing. Let's unify our communities. Let's educate our communities. And let's mobilize our communities. And Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. And my motto is the truth don't change. God bless you all.
Amen. Thank you so much. Max Shorty, go ahead and let's move it on in.
Let's not move, let's improve. Let's not move, let's improve. You know the little girl next door, you know the young man next door, you know what the family's going through. Just be an encouragement to people. Let's not move, let's improve. You know what I'm saying? Because if you move, you got the same problems in Moreno Valley, San Bernardino. I thought about going to Beverly Hills, but then I know won't nobody be speaking to me next door. So I want to stay where people know me. I want to stay where I'm loved. And it's about people. I'm not willing to get paid for this work. My blessing is going to come from heaven. That's where my mansion at. So all I'm going to tell you is let's not move, let's improve. This is our community. Why we got to move? We going to improve this thing, and we going to improve it all together. Get on board. If you don't want to get on board, hang on the back of the caboose, but you still on the train, because the train is leaving the station, and we going to make this a better community. All of our communities, because we are people. We're family. I got my uncle on the west side. I got my auntie downtown. I got my people in Compton. I got my sons, them in Long Beach. I got my daughter in Lancaster. Why I want to move? We can improve all together. The more the merrier.
I so agree. I'm not moving. I am not moving. I love South Central Los Angeles. I'm staying here. It is my home. It is my family and the people. We are rich. We are blessed. We are brilliant. We are beautiful, and we are dynamic, and we are deserving of every wonderful, amazing thing possible. Let me just say this. I heard a couple of people say, I don't get paid for this. People should get paid for their work. We should be compensated. Investments should come to South Los Angeles, Watts, Compton, Inglewood. We should receive just as much, if not more, than other communities, because we have been robbed of our investments. We have been robbed of all of the things that our community needs. And our community is rich and beautiful because of the people. And so on that note, I'm going to go to the rich and beautiful Emada Tingirides, Deputy Chief.
Thank you. I think I was listening to the panel before ours about our young women and domestic violence, and you wanted us to close out with something about community and safety, and the Bernita and you had Ben Owens on, just powerful. And the fact that we have young women that aren't safe in our communities is what drives me to keep doing the work that I do. But even more powerful than that is the fact that there are people who care and want to make a difference and see a difference in their community. And that is what motivates me to continue to do what I do. And so my takeaways from today is love, like Pastor JJ said, and that let's not move and prove. One of LAPD's core values is quality through continuous improvement. I think for 2022, we should put a little star and put, that means let's not move, improve. And so I take away feeling hopeful, community, and leadership. That's what I take from today.
Yes. Thank you so much. I appreciate each and every one of you for sharing your time, your energy, your spirit, your heart, your commitment, your honesty and transparency, and your respect. So Reverend JJ, Max Shorty, Joel Lopez, and Emada Tingirides, Deputy Chief, I am thankful and grateful for your participation. And so as I say thank you to each of them, we are ending our conversation. And I really want to thank each one of you who has joined us tonight and has stayed even a little longer past this. We've been streaming live as well on Facebook. And I want to thank all of you who have been watching, who have shared this. And if you're catching it afterwards, share it with your family, share it with your friends, and share it with your network. As a person, as a human being, not as a nonprofit, I'm going to say prayer is necessary. I saw a young man the other day and my spirit was moved just to pray for him. And I saw another person, a young man in a store, and he had just got hold of his two infant sons. They were twins, and I had to pray for them. And I pray for this community. But collectively, together, once we work together, we can really make a difference and we can make a change. The community deserves it. The community wants it, and we're here for that. Safety is a human right issue. We should all feel safe. We should all feel safe to walk down the street, to go to the store, or to say no to someone. Our girls and boys should feel safe at home. Women and men should feel safe at home. We know that violence happens everywhere, but we should feel safe at home. And so we have to do all we can, including having honest conversations about what violence and abuse is and how to prevent it. And how do we talk to boys and men about safeguarding not only themselves, but their sisters, their families? How do we talk to women about having engagements and relationships with people who don't mean them any good? because we have to talk about love. We have to talk about respect. We have to engage our elected officials and all of the community members and all of the ministers and their wives and people in the church and our corporate partners about the safety of boys and girls who are being trafficked. And most importantly, we all have a role to play in community partnerships and community safety. When we talk about violence and abuse, it is not just on law enforcement, it's on us as well. We have to do something about all lives matter, but I am going to say especially about Black Lives Matter. And we have to also talk to our young men and our young women, the shooters in the community, because they are just as responsible for boys and girls, men and women being killed in the streets. We deserve to live. We deserve to be healthy. We deserve good health and safety. And so on that note, I'm going to say, learn who you can partner with. There have been some amazing organizations today. Reach out to them. Reach out to us if there's someone that you want to talk to or you want to work with or you want to have them come and talk to you. But we deserve to be safe and we deserve to have community partnerships that we can trust and respect. So thank you for that. And on that note, I'm going to say thank you to you all for joining us this evening. And I'm going to end with our thanks to our sponsors. Thank you so much, Southern California Gas Company, for sponsoring our event. To Kaiser Permanente, Liberty Hill, LA Care, to the Black Women Leaders of Los Angeles, Mac Enterprises, Forgiving for Living, the Kinsey Collection, and the Los Angeles Business Journal. And don't forget to register for our upcoming event. The next one is going to be on re-entry. We are going to bring men and women who have just come back into the community and those who have been here for a while and talk about the changes that they've made in not only their lives, their family, but in the community. Everyone deserves respect and consideration. So register for Advancing Social Justice and Equity, Opportunities and Possibilities for BIPOC Communities. It is the reentry conversation. You can go to our website to learn more. I'm Candy Lewis, CEO of Positive Results Center, and I thank you so much for spending time with us. Next time, bring a friend. Have a good evening. For those of you who are still with us, all you have to do is click X and just go ahead and log on out. As you leave, know that we appreciate you. Thank you, and have a blessed and beautiful day. Be careful, be safe.